Assalamu alaikum. This is NTV Europe's weekly chat show, Talking Point. I'm your host, Syed Neaz Ahmed. Today in our studios, we have a personality who is Vice Chair of Republicans Overseas, Global, and Chair of UK. She works, or she has worked, as Senior Manager with Fortune 500, FTSE 250, and has started up companies to develop and implement strategies. She is also associated with a very well-known firm, Infobasis. On her website, or somewhere I think, I found something about her which I would like to read out. Tenacious and creative, senior executive with proven ability to quickly analyze key business and market drives and develop strategies to grow the bottom line. Well, business and politics, I think you mix it very well with it. The lady here is Dr. Jan Halpen S1. Welcome to the show, Dr. Jan. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm wonderful.
Well, thank you very much for making time for us. I know that we have been corresponding with each other, sending messages to each other for the last several months.
We have.
You have been very busy, but finally we got around and you did find time for us.
My pleasure.
These are wonderful days. The summer has left and we are into the winter. Days are shorter and nights are longer. Dark days, dark nights are here. But my program, which used to go in the afternoon, that was in summer, is now evening. How did it all start? I mean, your business, you have been to the university, you have been a great student, a writer, we will talk about that later, an international bestseller writer, and then you are looking after some parts of the American politics overseas. How do you manage that?
Well, the role that I have now, I feel in some respects, is like my military duty to the United States. Even though
boots on the feet.
Well, you know, what it is that I feel incredibly patriotic.
Right.
Even though I'm not living on American soil. I value an enormous amount of what America brings to the world and what America does for its people and what our Constitution represents.
Right.
I've always been interested in politics, and in fact, one of my first jobs was a political appointee to the mayor of New York City.
Lindsay.
But yes, Lindsay, Mayor Lindsay. And, but I came from an entrepreneurial family. And so I always wanted to be in business. And I found that there were certain things that I wanted to do, but I often tell young people that the two major accomplishments in my life came about because other people recognized certain talents in me and guided me. And having that mentorship was really very important.
Who were they? Your
Well,
parents?
no. Well, my parents, by example, because they were entrepreneurial. But a boss that I had said that I had a very unique talent for bringing people together to understand and how to implement strategy. And I wouldn't have thought about specializing in that area. The other achievement that I'm probably also proud of is that I was working out in the gym and a guy said to me I was really strong and I always wanted to push myself athletically, and I did, and I started to compete in women's powerlifting and I was ranked 13th in the United States.
Great.
But also that athletic discipline is something that I was able to bring in terms of helping people with their peak performance. Now, how do you really figure out how you're going to do something and what are the mental disciplines that you need to achieve that?
Yep. I understand in Japan they have regimes like this that every morning people coming to the office, they devote about 5–10 minutes time to some physical exercise,
Yes.
aerobics or something.
Yeah.
Do you do that in the States?
No, not really. we work hard in the States. I think that's the way, the best way to answer it is we're very diligent and we work very hard.
You were associated, or probably you are still, are Infobasis. What is that organization?
Well, I used to be on the board of Infobasis, and it was sold to another company. But when I was head of strategy for what was PricewaterhouseCoopers Consulting, and then IBM bought us, we needed some software that actually IBM couldn't develop, and it was to be able to assess the talent in an organization and to be able to look at it from a succession planning, but also in terms of the skills that were needed for each job level and each activity that needed to be done. And they were a fabulous group of young guys who actually spun off from Microsoft. So I helped them build that company.
It's a very intricate, I mean, you graduated from Stanford?
I did my graduate work at Stanford, yes.
And that was probably mass communications or radio or broadcasting or something?
It was mass communications,
yes.
yeah.
It's very interesting to see from, you have graduated in mass communications, and then you went into business implementations and strategies and all that, I say.
Well, let me add something else. I started out as a home economics major. I was raised in the era that you had to be a good cook and you had to take care of the house, and I always wanted a career. And so I switched to marketing, and then I'm also trained as a psychologist. But again, one of my mentors said to me that I was so action-oriented that to see patients in an office from 6 in the morning till 10 at night would not do me well. I needed to go work with business people. And so that's how it came about. So from my entrepreneurial family, and my family always had businesses, so from the time we were young, we worked in the businesses, and it just moved me. And I think that I have a unique understanding of reading people's personalities and their emotions, and to be able to combine that with guiding them into accomplishing things has really been a very fulfilling career for me.
With your background in psychology and mass communications and business studies and all that, obviously you do understand people very well, and probably your international bestseller that probably has benefited a lot from your knowledge of psychology and how men behave.
Well, exactly. It's called Quiet Desperation, The Truth About Successful Men. And I interviewed 4,126 men.
Why is it called provocative?
Well, actually, the thing was that I was working on my doctoral dissertation, and I was also consulting in business. And at the time, there were books being written for women telling them to be just like men. But the men that I was working with weren't really happy in what they were doing. And so I thought, what relevance does a consultant have in working in a corporation? Because we're not there all the time, we come and go. And how can we influence, but also what are some of the issues that are going on? So how can I have a double message? Men didn't necessarily talk about their feelings or share their conflicts, so this would be a way that I could communicate that. But it was also an indirect way of telling women, you don't have to be like men, because guess what? They'd like to make a few changes themselves in the way the corporate world is going. And so it really came about, and it was published in several languages, and I would have executives from Portugal, from Japan, from Australia fly in to see me, and really started to open up and talk about the issues. And I think that men, since I did my study, which came out in 1988, have changed quite a bit. You know, they now have the language of feelings. And that's been a very important thing in business as well.
Did you follow it up with another book, or?
No, I haven't. I've got one in the making, but...
Why not about women?
I always get asked that question, and here is my answer. We women are just too complex. It was much easier to identify the 3 major conflicts that men go through in their personal lives.
It should be easier for you.
You know what? No, it isn't. No, we have too many roles. You know, there's this wonderful thing on YouTube that talks...
A mother, a wife.
a mother, a wife, a business person, or a homemaker or a volunteer. Yeah. And men are able to compartmentalize a little bit better than women.
Thank you.
I just thought I'd throw a little compliment in there.
What was your work with Brooke Green? You were Senior Vice President from 2008 to July 2014.
Yes, that was a colleague of mine who decided that he wanted to build a marketing firm for hedge funds. And the reason being is that was when the financial crisis happened. And so all the financial sector rulings and regulations were changing. And it was a question of where was the money and how could you get clients, because in the UK you couldn't advertise for them, where in the US the financial services regulation changed and you could advertise. So it was how to help the small hedge funds have outsourced their marketing so that they could find the right kinds of investors for their businesses.
Probably it would not be out of place to ask what had happened, what went wrong, because a lot of people, the property market went bust and a lot of people lost their houses. What had gone wrong?
Oh, you know what?
In short.
In short, I was going to say I'm not an economist. I'm on the intangible side of things, and I think that even economists are still baffled about what caused the crash. You know, we could say certain policies, we could say overextended in certain ways, we could say the subprime mortgage. I'm not sure anyone could really articulate it in 15 seconds.
Yep. How are things now?
Things are improving. I still question whether the U.S. economy is doing as well as Obama likes to tell us it's doing.
Well, very soon Mr. Obama will not be there, and probably somebody else will be there. We do not know who.
We know who we would hope that a Republican takes over.
Well, I mean, that's a good hope, but we do not know what will happen in future, do we? You were also with IBM Business Consulting Services, and also there's a long list of marketing achievements, see, that you have achieved for so many companies. See, we will definitely discuss those points in our second segment, but probably it's about time for a break, and then when we come back, we'll definitely talk about more of business, and then a little bit about your current position as Vice President, Global Vice President of Republicans and Chair of the UK Republicans. We don't say Republican Party.
No, it's Republicans overseas. We represent expat Americans, and we have filed a lawsuit that really is fighting tax issues on behalf of all 8.7 million overseas Americans.
Just the tax issues?
Well, there's something called the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act.
Okay, we have to take this break, and then when we come back, we'll definitely talk about more. Thank you very much for being with us. Don't go away. We'll take a short break and come back soon.